Hey everybody, welcome back to Flourish 2019. It's your host, Christina Louise, and I'm really so excited to introduce you to my friend, Janine Staples today. She is a flippin' rock star, a woman of high worth. She's sharing her light with literally millions of women around the world, and today she's here to share that light of worth and truth and legacy with us here today. Welcome, Janine. Thank you so much for being with us.
Christina, thank you so much for having me. I am delighted to be here.
I'm so glad. And you look gorgeous. So tell us about first, how did you get started? Where did you come from? Because you're like this amazing rock star. You're helping millions of women around the planet. I know that didn't happen overnight, and you probably, like me, weren't born into that, or were you?
Yeah. Well, I am a professor. And so I came from the academic end. So I am an educational anthropologist. I'm classically trained. I'm tenured at a Research One university. And so I've done 15 years of systematic anthropological work with women to understand interior life, to understand pain patterns, to understand terror narratives, like how it is we came to be people pleasers and approval addicts and anxiety riddled and depressed as we've been socialized in girlhood and womanhood. So I came from academics. I came from a space where I said, I'm a Black woman scholar, I'm an educator, and I've coached people at the university side for years, but if I don't figure out a way to create a platform that brings my research to the masses, it'll basically die on the vine. Nobody will ever read my peer-reviewed articles or my books except other professors or, other people who are interested in academia. And my work has real time, real life consequences. And so I created the Supreme Love Project really as an answer to a call to do higher level impact and deeper influence in women's healing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is a terror narrative?
Yeah, so a terror narrative is a verbal or written account of one's experience with violence. And so what I learned as an educational anthropologist is there is a trajectory, is like a long line of terrors. There are just dozens and dozens and dozens of different types of terrors. There are experiences with verbal abuse, with psychological trauma, with physical violence, and there's this range and variation of terror narratives. And women collect terror narratives actually because of the ways that we are brought up in a patriarchal society. We are taught to theme for the attention of men, for example. So we develop these terror narratives around not enough, around lack. We are trained to cover and hide our bodies. And so we develop terror narratives about weight and about color and about size and shape. And then when we create relationships, when we are sort of coming from a space of pain, we create more terror narratives with people who abuse us, giving away power, running behind narcissistic, codependent energies. And so there's just all kinds of ways we collect experience with violence. And my job as a scholar, as an educator, as a coach is to interrupt it.
And then what happens when we interrupt it?
Well, great things can happen. So we wake up, we often crash. There's a lot of mourning in the interruption when we look up and we're like, whoa, what year is this? How old am I? Like, what's going on? How long have I been giving away my power? How long have I been suffering in this relationship, feeling oppressed? And so there's all kinds of eruptions that happen through the interruptions. There's lots of possibility that opens up in the interruptions. There are all kinds of opportunities and advantages we get in the interruptions where you can really snap out of a pain pattern that you've been nurturing for years.
So that's got to bring up fear, right? Fear, does it bring up this fear of the unknown?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When we as women create relationships that last weeks, months, years, decades, and that's our normal, the prospect of coming out of that normal into a new normal can definitely feel scary. The prospect of taking your power back from people you've given it away to can definitely feel scary. If a woman doesn't know that she can trust herself, if she doesn't know how to generate deeper levels of respect for herself, all of it can feel terrifying. And there's also shame involved in uncovering a terror narrative because women say to themselves, wow, how much money have I wasted? How much time have I wasted? How much energy have I wasted? How long have I crippled myself? And how bad do I feel about myself right now when I come to these realizations? So there's definitely all of that like tenuous, icky stuff involved in uncovering your terror narrative, but it's still worth it. It is so worth it, because when you learn your truth at a very base level, you can literally graduate 1,000 times from that space into upper echelons of consciousness and healing and confidence and clarity and compassion and courage beyond what you could have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm. So that is where like the negative self-talk, like waking up can actually bring up another layer of negative self-talk. Like, how much money did I waste and my time? And then the ego can get in there. Do you call it the ego?
I call it the fragmented, disowned, orphaned, wounded parts of ourselves.
I love that. Can you say that again?
Yeah. So I call that amalgam the fragmented, disowned, orphaned, wounded parts of ourselves.
Yeah. I love that. I freaking love that, because there's so many people out there that are teaching to like kill the ego and ignore the ego and go to war with the ego. And I know from trying it that that's not the way.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know, what I say to women is like, your soul and your soma, that is your mind and your body, are your kingdom. And your stories are the currency in your kingdom. And your fragmented, disowned, orphaned, wounded parts will rise up to be healed. You will rise up with stories about insufficiency, about lack, about poverty. You'll rise up with stories of rage, of insecurity. You'll rise up with stories that are protest songs, that are accusations. Those parts of you that are in the recesses of your soul will come to you with all kinds of problems. You get to be the problem solver. You get to be the big healer. You get to be the queen, the goddess, the warrior servant on throne, ready to accept every part of you that comes through into consciousness with something, with hat in hand. Like, help me to figure out this problem. Help me to believe that I'm enough. Help me to believe that I'm worthy of love. I don't believe that I'm anything better than the mud under your shoe. Fix that. And so it's not about going to war with yourself. It's not about fighting with yourself. It's not about bullying yourself. It's definitely not about ignoring yourself. When you do that, basically you're giving, you know, a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10-year-old fragmented, disowned, orphaned, wounded part reign and rule over your life. Why would you do that? Like, why would you give a 3-year-old the keys to your house and a 5-year-old the keys to your car and, you know, a 12-year-old with a drug problem all the passcodes to your bank accounts? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't go to war or fight or just relinquish power. So no, I'm definitely not about fighting with yourself. I'm definitely not about making yourself a villain. I'm definitely not about ignoring yourself. What we teach women in the Supreme Love Project is how to form deep, sustained engagements with all parts of yourself that rise up to be healed.
I love that. I know that's the way. So not beating ourselves up for how much time we wasted or how many mistakes we made, right? And then what you're saying in addition to that is you can actually go farther, faster, and experience a life beyond your imagination because you went through these things. So then therefore it's not really a waste.
There's no waste. There's no mistakes. There isn't even that thing. That's like it's a part of a story that we made up to help us to sort of bear the emotions that we feel when we identify our behaviors or our choices as wrong or bad. And it's something that we get to interrogate and we get to question and we get to turn it on its head. And that's something that you can learn to do. What I also would say to women is don't feel bad if you've got a dozen degrees, if you've read 1,000 books, if you've been to all the workshops, if you've traveled the world and you've got certifications and you still don't feel good and you still don't feel worthy, don't feel bad. Because what we teach as light workers and what we teach as deep scholars of women's interior life, no one's ever taught you. So you're not bad or wrong, and you're not slow or stupid, and you're not ill-equipped. You're just untaught, miseducated. That's it. And all of that can be undone. All of that can be fixed.
Yeah. So it's not us that needs to be fixed. It's the education, the stories, the programming that we received. And I think we really need to separate ourselves from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We get to say, this type of teaching or training that I got from my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my teachers, my doctor, my physician, like all of these teachers who have come into our sphere because we've drawn them in, because we were bequeathed with a certain sort of ideology, they were all a part of a story. And when you grow up and you become an autonomous person with agency, you get to choose. You get to choose how you determine and name and notice yourself over a broad spectrum of stories that you've been collecting for years. You get to choose.
Yeah, I love that. So then there's no more need for negative self-talk.
No.
I get to choose.
You get to choose.
Yeah.
You get to absolutely choose. And what I would say, and to all the women who are watching us or listening to us right now, Christina, if you feel even a little bit frustrated instead of inspired by that idea that you get to choose, don't worry about that either. Because I remember when people used to say, it's your choice, make a choice, make a decision, think differently. I would just want to crush skulls. And I'm not even a violent person. I would be so angry though. So angry because I knew they were right, but I didn't know how to do what they were talking about. So I felt more frustrated and more inept. And what you get to hear secondary to the you have the power talk is you get to be taught your power. We as women are so incredibly big and just full, but we're wild. And we've been domesticated in a patriarchal realm. Nobody's taught us how to rein in our energy, to rein in ourselves as an aspect of source. There are methods, there are mechanics, there are strategies, there are steps to loving yourself. You don't just do it like that. And there are ways to practice talking to yourself with benevolence and with compassion. You don't just do it because someone said, hey, do that thing. Love yourself, like yourself, hold yourself in high regard and high esteem, whatever. There are steps and there are methods. So you're not crazy and you're not late. You're fine.
I love that. You're not, wait, what did you say? You're not crazy.
And you're not late.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. So what does self-worth how does self-worth come in here? Like I can hear you on it, but I want to make sure that we like actually talk about that, because I know there's so many women I talk to every day that are like, oh, if the guy would just treat me better, or oh, if I just had more money, or if I had another plaque on my wall, then everything would be better. And I'm sitting here knowing that those outside circumstances are a reflection of how you feel about yourself, how worthy you believe you are. But I know that not everybody in our audience gets that yet. And I really want to hear you talk about that today.
Absolutely. So I used to have a real problem with my worth and value. I was a codependent and I drew in narcissists, two whoppers. Thank God I didn't marry them. But I understand and I know, and I've coached women who have married narcissists and had children with narcissists, created a whole tapestry of life with narcissists. So everything that you just said, Christina, is absolutely true, and I co-sign it. Anything that's happening in your exterior life is a direct result of your interior life primarily. Secondarily, I'm going to put this caveat in there because I think it's relieving for women to hear. Secondarily, what's going on in your exterior life is about the collective reality that is agreed upon by the masses. So it's a dualistic double entendre. So what does that mean? That means the narcissist that I drew in, who loved, bombed me, and I thought were my Prince Charming, who slowly and surely began to degrade me, began to dismiss me, began to do psychological trips and tricks around me. They were both being responsive to my internal narrative about my worth and value, that I was not worth commitment, that I was not worthy of kindness and generosity or consistency. And secondarily, They were a result of a collective sickness around personhood and humanity that was operating. So it was both. So when I say to women, Christina, you're 100% responsible for your experience and for your life. Some women go, but what about him? But what about what he did? Or what about what they did? Or what about what she did? What I would like to say is, it is true that you're not responsible for those behaviors. You're not responsible for their upbringing. You're not responsible for their sickness or illness. You are responsible 100% for what you think and what you feel about yourself, about those people, about those experiences, and what you say and do in relation to those experiences. And you are so good to you. Write this down. I would like everybody to notice this. You, the fragmented, disowned, orphaned, wounded parts of you are so good to you and so in love with you and so deeply devoted to you that those parts of you in sickness and in health will continue to gift you with experiences that reflect your interior truth, so that you can never lie to yourself, so that you can't be tripped up in a fantasy. You'll keep creating it. So my self-worth was in the toilet, even though I had a great job and I had cool friends and I had my degrees and my fancy Fendi purses and I was traveling the world, but still my interior life was filled with, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. That was the conversation. Because that was the conversation and the energy that I was vibrating on, that's what I drew in. I drew in people who would align with that conversation and who would carry out my worst wishes. We're perfect in form and function. Absolutely perfect in form and function. You know, ethereal geometry is real. And so that's a part of what I would like to say to women. If you are in an abusive relationship, if you're being lied to, if you're being cheated on, if you're being disrespected, if you're being ghosted, if you are being verbally abused, if you are being emotionally neglected, if you are being sexually or physically abused, what's going on is there is a worthiness project that's happening inside of you that is in the toilet. And so switching your interior life over, churning your conversations into affirming ones, is the single most important thing that you can do for yourself as a woman. Being happy and feeling good are the most important tasks in every single day of womanhood. Truth.
Yeah.
Swear.
Yeah. And it's the exact opposite of how we've been trained by the world, right? They tell us, don't worry about how you feel. It doesn't matter. Life sucks. Then you die. It's not fair. It's hard. Get over it. And we push and we push and we push how we feel to the back burner, and we wonder why we put up with so much crap.
Yep.
It's not your fault. I love that you said you're just untaught, you're miseducated. It's not you. You're not crazy. You're not late. You didn't waste anything. You're woken up now. You're here with me and Janine.
Yeah.
And Janine has an amazing free gift for you. Do you want to share us?
I do. So I created something called the Worthiness Workshops. And so it's a series of 5 interviews that I created with really powerful, powerful women who do work around worth and value. And that is from the worth and value that you have in relationships and the worth and value you have in revenue. So that, Christina, is a part of something that I would like to make a connection around. If you're feeling bad about yourself, like you don't deserve love, you don't deserve attention, affection, affirmation, light, laughter, music, great sex, then you're probably also in a conversation that you don't deserve material wealth. You don't deserve a great job. You don't deserve beautiful things or to live in beautiful places. You don't even feel comfortable necessarily with compliments or with like ascending into different levels. It's all connected. So I brought together a group of women and I've interviewed all of them. Actually, I think there are 5 coaching videos in the series, but 4 interviews. And they are filled with powerful concepts, with wonderful calls to action, with really juicy ideas and methods that can support you in breaking out of some of that bad programming that you've been stuck in for so long, and put you into a flow where you get more comfortable and clear about what your worth and value really, really is.
That sounds amazing. I can't wait to watch. I got to find out who these ladies, I want to like see who did you find? Like, this sounds so exciting to me. If it sounds exciting to you, just go ahead and click the link below this video and snatch it up. It's only there for a limited time. What else do you want to share with us before we close today? You're such a wealth of, I like watching you and hearing you and enjoying your energy and your presence, and to hear that it wasn't always this way for you, that you had dated narcissists, that you had been subject to the same faulty programming that we all have. And here you are, just gorgeous and glowing and owning it and adorned and beautiful and sharing your time and energy with us today. It's just, I'm so grateful that you're here and that the women here get to see you and realize that they can have this too. And with that free gift, it's going to be so much easier.
Yes, that warms my heart. And I thank you for sharing that with me, Christina. That really inspires me. It warms my heart. I think what I would like to leave with our audience is real encouragement. Encouragement to remember that you're not alone. So one of the things that I did when I was a codependent and I was swimming in narcissistic abuse is I performed perfection for so long. And I was performing happiness for so long. And it was because I thought I'm the only one. That's a toxic energy that I would like to relieve you from right now. You are not alone. You are not the only one. There are many women of your caliber, smart, savvy, educated, well-traveled, thoughtful, church-going, religious and spiritual. There's all kinds of ways that you count yourself valuable. There's so many women who are just like you, just like me, who are going through the same thing. The fact that you're here means that you are waking up. The fact that you are clicking on the link to get the free gift, and not just mine, everybody on the series, get it all, get all that goodness. It means that you are positioning yourself to wake up and to connect with other women who are in the same journey and who are going to the same destination. It's going from a pit to a paradise. You're on your way.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I call it the promised land.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm taking notes feverishly over here. So this is so good. Make sure you click the link below, grab your free gift, stay connected with us. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know what support that you need. No shame. You heard it from Janine. She's been there, done that. You've heard it from me. You've heard it from all other 20 of these masters who are saying, we've been there. You're not alone. It's not you. That's the problem. It's your programming. And we're here to help you change that so that your exterior life is the way that you want it to be. Right? It's so simple, but not easy in this world where we're being inundated by this advertising and news broadcasts and magazines and movies that say, you're not enough. You got to chase the guy. You got to perform. You got to be perfect. You got to look like you have it all. It's all bullshit. So that's why having community and coaching is so important. And I know you wanted to touch on that before we left today too. Let's talk about real quick in the 2 minutes that we have left, just the power of coaching and the power of community and how you've seen that change people's lives and what happens when you don't have that. Because there's so much like you're supposed to do it on your own BS out there. And I actually asked, I had a woman call me and she's like, I want help, but I don't know. And I'm like, she's like, I think I should just do it on my own. And I said, I was sitting on my balcony and I turned the camera around and I said, tell me one thing in nature that works independently of anything else. Just one thing. There's nothing in all of God's green earth that is not connected and receiving and giving in harmony with other things, right? So let's talk about that just for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely, Christina. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because what kept me in my spin cycle of pain for so long, contending with the fragmented, disowned, orphaned, wounded parts of myself, fighting with myself, arguing with myself, ignoring myself for so long, and developing these sinking stories that were keeping me in a sunken place, was isolation and ignorance. and a little bit of arrogance. There was pride. What I thought was, I can figure this out. I've got multiple degrees and certifications, and I'm traveled and I'm well-read, and I go to the workshops. I go to the, and I read the books. So I've got this. I can do this by myself. I can figure it out. I don't need other people. And also, I don't want other people to know how pathetic I feel. So I'm going to try this by myself. And it wasn't until, and I did therapy and all kind, and I'm not knocking therapists, and I'm not knocking great teachers. I am a teacher. But what I would say is, what coaching will do for you. Hiring a coach, literally, and putting yourself into a community will provide you with the context and the container within which to not only learn your new programming, but also practice it, so that the methods, the strategies, the techniques, the concept can become real in your life instead of just something you read on a page. Yeah. It's where you get to practice with other people who are being coached in the same paradigms and the same ideologies. You get to practice your new ways of speaking, your new ways of thinking, your new ways of walking, your new ways of relating, your new ways of seeing, your new ways of hearing. You get to give feedback, you get to receive feedback, and you get to create a new normal that will take you through those mourning periods, those rough patches, and up the mountaintop into your new beginning. If you don't have a container where there is a qualified coach in leadership and where there is a vetted community surrounding you, the likelihood of you breaking out of 20, 30, 40 years of bad programming is slim to none. I know women in the Supreme Love Project, Christina, who are in their 80s, in their 80s, 80s, who are just now freeing themselves from the bad programming and the interior injustice that they've been suffering with their entire lives. These same women thought in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, I can do it by myself. I could do it all alone. I don't need a coach. I don't need to hire someone. I don't need to join a community. I don't need to pay all that money. I don't need to listen. Ask any of those women, and there's a handful who are in their 80s, ask any of those women. If you had it to do all over again, would you hire the coach? Would you get in the community? Every single one of them say, listen, the 10, 15, 20, whatever $1,000 that I would have paid back then, I've already paid it about a dozen times, bailing people out, bailing myself out, scrounging for resources, trying to buy pleasure and buy myself out of this depression. And I've spent the money anyway. That's what they say. I've spent the money anyway.
One way or the other.
Pay for it.
Cheaper.
Yes.
Cheaper this way.
Yes. And it's take the advice. Get a coach. Get a community. This is not a selling point. This is literally a salvation point. Save your soul. You're worth it.
Woo, that was good. That was really good. I hope you guys all received it. Click the link below this video, grab the worthiness workshops, take advantage of the support and the resources and the love for you here. That's it for today. Tomorrow starts our all access replay period. Make sure you invite your friends. This is amazing. I'm so grateful, Janine. I'm so it's true. You hear truth when you have that reaction. And I love that you brought up studying versus practicing, because I know there's so many women that have been doing the workshops and watching shows like this for years and years and years, sitting on the sidelines and having that safe environment, that container, as you call it, to actually practice, to come clean and actually just practice being, like you said, a new normal, being worthy, being divine, being connected, being trusting of yourself. It has made all the difference in my life, all the difference in your lives. And there's not one master on this series that's not being coached right now. I would never hire a coach who's not being coached. I would never, ever. Olympic athletes don't win the gold medal and fire their coach the next day, right? People who like Tony Robbins and presidents and governor, they all have coaches and advisors around them. They have communities, they have meetings with people of like mind, because without it, you wither, you die, you isolate, you're not receiving and you're not giving. And so you wither like anything else in nature. So
100%.
yeah, so good. I know you got to run. I love you all. Check out the All Access replay tomorrow, and I'll see you in your inbox soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.